Laharji, my esteemed panelist here, जिनके विचारों को हम आज सुनेंगे, it is a very well thought of topic today. Mr. Gustavo Sousa, Arvind Gaur ji, Ashmin Munjal ji, और भी यहाँ पे अलग अलग सेशंस में जो लोग हैं उनको हम लोग सुनेंगे. I have been seen working of Devendra Gupta ji. I have seen his work. Everybody here knows his work. लेकिन मुझे आज पता चला उनका हम्बल बिगनिंग के लिए. थैंक यू लहर जी. मैं ये बात अपनी तरफ से उनके लिए ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि दिनकर जी की एक कविता है, उसकी 4 लाइन मैं ज़रूर बोलना चाहता हूँ. मुझे याद आ गई जब इन्होंने उनके हम्बल बिगनिंग के बारे में, और जो आज वो काम कर रहे हैं, जितने विकट संकटों में है, जिनका जीवन मिला, गौरव गंध उन्हें उतना ही यत तत् सर्वत्र मिला. तो ये है बहुत महत्वपूर्ण बात है कि जो संवेदनशीलता की आवश्यकता है वह उनमें है, और पूरी संस्था के लोगों में मैंने देखी है. पिछले प्रोग्राम में जैसे उसे भी कंपेयर कर रही थी, मॉडरेट कर रही थी. डेमोक्रेसी वाज एन इम्पोर्टेंट. देयर वाज अ बिग डिबेट on what is the democratic status of the country. At that point of time, the Southeast Asian Foundation had raised that issue. And today, when there is a big talk on religion, this is also an important topic where discussion, debate is required. कहते हैं हमारे ग्रंथों में, वादे वादे जायते सत्तत्व बोधन. Through discussions and debate alone, you can get to the bottom of the truth. That's very important. It has to be open discussion. I know सोनल जी ने बहुत अच्छा ओपनिंग रिमार्क यहाँ पे दिया, बहुत ही एनलाइटनिंग रिमार्क उनका हमें मिला. But there is a chance of sometimes misinterpreting by a certain vested interest. So that's very important that we take it in the full context. I will also speak on some of the issues which have been raised by Lahirji and which are in the public domain of the debate, and across, not only in India but across the world. And I would like to put it clearly, these are my personal remarks. That's not what has been thought about by the party or anything. But though I have a position that is also very important for my consideration. So in this background, I would just like to tell the historical background of India being a religiously very open and friendly and freely for all religion is well established. Sonal ji told about that. We also know in the history, whether it was Jews, Zoroastrian, Parsis, they came in much earlier time into the country and they were very well welcomed. So there is no question about historically that India is a country of free religion. It has welcomed all religion, all countries. That's in history. We have to come to the present is also important. So second part of history also I'll take. In 1600th century, Britishers came. They came and ruled in the country. And what I thought, what my understanding of the history is, their basic philosophy in the country was divide and rule. And from there this disharmony started in the country, where is also important for us to consider. 1905 में, the first time they tried to divide the country on the communal and religious line, and they divided Bengal. But there was a big uprising in the country which did not allow them, and they had to take it back. Then in 1909, the first time when they were successfully putting the seeds of communal divide in the country was that they brought this Morley-Minto Act of 1909. In that, in the country, in the first time, communal voter list, electorate was established in the country. The electoral voter list was based on the basis of religion and other things. So that is the important thing. And you have to also consider that culmination of that, because of their divide and rule policy and putting up the seeds of discontent, religious disharmony in the country, we saw division of the country in 1947 on the basis of religion in Pakistan and India. That's also for the context we have to understand. Post-independence is now what we are interested in. Post-independence, our constitution now has very clearly and emphatically, though we had such a checkered history on communal divide that the whole country was divided on the basis of religion, but still Indian leadership at that point of time had the vision and courage to stand for this important concept which we are discussing today, and very importantly that our constitution very specifically mentions an important word of secularism. Though the secularism word in our preamble in the constitution was brought by the 42nd Amendment, but Supreme Court has in several cases has well established that the secularism was the basic thread of our constitution before 1976 also. Though the word secularism was not there in our preamble or constitution, but still secularism was the basic concept in our whole constitutional framework. That's very important, and there are I will not go into very detail in the constitution, but there are 2-3 articles very important which underlines or found basis of our secularism or free religion or welcome to all religion, and their rights of the minorities, all communities are brought into our constitution, and it has been made the responsibility of the government that the constitutional values of respect to all religion are well enshrined in our in the state responsibility and duties. That's very important. Article 14, where right to equality. Though we have a written constitution, many countries do not have a written constitution like India. India has explicit and very detailed constitution, and Article 14 very clearly and emphatically says that equality of all persons in the country has to be maintained by the country. And in association with Article 14 is a second important fundamental right, which are the fundamental right which clearly defines the freedom for every person and right of every person in the country is Article 15, which says, I'll just quote from this Article 15, that the state cannot at any point of time not implement any policy without no discrimination can take place by the state on the basis of religion, caste or sex. This is a fundamental right, and if any state or any authority violates this, they can go to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court, which upheld, which is the guardian of our fundamental right, can direct the court or any law to discontinue it, and it can call that any law, it has to be nullified. That's the power of the Supreme Court on protection of the fundamental right. And many cases in the court have said that secularism is the basic structure of the political system of the country. Or if there is one important court case which is almost 13-bench Supreme Court judgment of Keshwanand Bharti, which says that no law of the government enacted by parliament or anywhere can supersede the basic structure of the constitution. So that is the protection our forefather had given for our religion. From there, we see that other important fundamental rights arise. That the right, there is another 2 important articles which control and give free religious context to the whole Indian system, political system or implementation of law, etc. is Article 25, which is applicable for all. The right to freely profess, practice, propagate religion. But there is a rider, I think, I just mentioned, that's also very important, that any religious sect or anybody can implement their and profess, propagate, and practice religious their sectoral rituals, etc., but subject to public order, health, and morality. That's very important. So therefore, the center and the state government or the legislation have a responsibility to do see that there are morality and there are health and morality and gender equality, etc., are enshrined in any of the policies. That's also important. Another point I would like to mention is about the personal laws. There is a big debate or discussion at present about the personal laws. In 1955, Hindu Code was enacted. And that's very important that at that point of time, lot of reforms into the Hindu, the majority cultural, majority religious community of the country was there. Several amendments to the Hindu personal law was brought. There were several acts were brought into the country, like child marriage, the problems in the Hindu community which arose at that point of time, which were coming from the historical background, was about the child marriage, widow remarriages was allowed, polygamy was abolished, sati pratha was abolished, gender equality in succession and inheritance was brought into the Hindu Code Act from 1955. But the process and the roadmap which the country took about was building consensus from the people, from in the mind of the people, and therefore slowly and successively Hindu laws of succession, minority, guardianship, inheritance, marriage, etc., were brought into the country. Though we lack similar kind of reforms and amendment because the consensus could not be built into the Muslim personal law, but majority of the country's population, which belongs to Hinduism, there lot of reforms were brought into, and therefore we see that many of the reforms which are required in the society have been brought into the majority of the society in the country. But certain sections other than Hindu, Sikh, Jain, Buddhism, which are governed by the Hindu Code Act, there certain reforms are still pending. They have to be brought. And the directive principle in our constitution had specifically said, Article 44, that we have to move towards uniform civil code. That is an important debate at present context about what is free religion or how India is embarking on the further path of free religion and equality of all religion. UCC has been directed by the constitution directive in the directive principle of the country, but the court have specifically said that it has to be left. The courts have not given any judgment whether there were certain court cases. Many cases have come on the Hindu Code Act, etc. There are, I can just cite some of them, Sarla Mudgal, etc. They were very important court cases which define how the Hindu laws have been amended, and should we move toward the uniform civil code. But the courts have said that it has to be left to the parliament and legislator to do amendment and move towards the uniform civil code, because it requires a building of consensus, a building of the same kind of coherence which was done in the Hindu code. That's very important. We have common criminal laws, and we also over the path on the path towards this building a coherent society. Many civil acts have been passed which are common to all. Anybody can, of any religion, can get associated and supersede his personal law if he agrees to accept those laws, like a Special Marriage Act, Minority Guardianship Act, which affect the day-to-day functioning of the society. If you want, you can register yourself into those acts, etc., and the personal laws will not be applicable in that case. So therefore, I think the path towards UCC is building a common coherence and consensus building system. There are amendments required. Slowly, the government is moving into the other communities where the requirements of amendment are there, whether it is triple talaq or where it is other kind of reforms, etc. are required. There, the country is moving towards slowly. I would just like to mention one thing also about the CA and NRC, where there has been a debate, and you have asked also about the question. Article 15 gives the right to profess and propagate religion for everybody, and Article 14 is applicable to all citizens. But it says, Article 14 says that the government cannot impose such restrictions on religious or anything without a reasonable clause. But same protection is not available for a city which are not citizens of the country. So when we are talking of Citizenship Amendment Act, we have to see the history of the partition, where a lot of people from the country, those who were residing in the countries nearby our country like Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, etc., they needed protection. They need protection. The minority community living there, Hindu, Sikh, Christians, and other religions, they need protection. And our constitution says that those who are not citizens of India, the country can pass laws subject to these limitations, etc. So, therefore, the Supreme Court also wants that NRC has to be established. The integrity of the country is required. So these are the debates that I think we certainly have to say. But in the last, I would like to end my opening remark is the constitution of the country has said specifically, just I am quoting from the constitution, is state is enjoined to treat all religion and religious sects equally. That's very important. And each person, whether be his religion, must get an assurance from the state that he has protection of law to freely profess, propagate, and practice his religion. That's very important. Constitution has very well protected the right of all. We have a minority commission. We have working on the benefit of all the communities. So if you go see historically, Indian thought is very clear on India is a land of free religion. We have welcomed everybody across the country into this country with any and to propagate and profess their religion. There was a period where there was a communal divide entrusted upon us because of the divide and rule policy. But again, our constitution has protected the basic thread of the basic structure of the constitution on this important topic. And I think this is an important forum where this debate discussions will go further. But I would like to just say, and my thing is that the country has been welcoming all religion, and all religions have been prospering in the country. The diversity of the country is an important thing where which is important identity of the country. With this opening remark, I thank the organizer for giving me this opportunity to speak some of the important issues and thoughts I think are very important for all of us to discuss. Thank you very much.
इससे पहले कि लहर अपनी सुनामी लाएं, I really would like to invite